Welcome, everybody, to this episode of SoulFull Sessions, a captivating conversation today with Jen Griswold. I am so excited to have her here today talking to us about, oh gosh, all sorts of juicy things. We're going to be talking about women entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking about life in big terms, grand terms. I'm going to just give everyone a little teaser here about that, a new life coming into this world. We're going to be talking about books and spirit and soul and another teaser, sacred spaces. It's going to be a really robust and rich conversation. And I'm so excited that you're here with me today, Jen.
Yay, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to share with everyone a little bit about Jen. So who is Jen Griswold? So she is an entrepreneur, an author, a retired military officer with a heart for serving her community through teaching, entrepreneurship, and providing marketing resources to women who want to launch their own businesses. So freaking cool. Jen has also been featured on the Today Show in Arlington Magazine, Next Gen Mill's Spouse, and on a variety of podcasts about entrepreneurship and performance. So obviously this podcast is not necessarily about entrepreneurship and performance, but we are about bringing that soul into things and about supporting women and about really allowing everyone to go out there and shine their light. And I think that has such a big part of your work as well, Jen. For anyone who's wondering where Jen is located, she is in Arlington, Virginia, and she lives with her husband, who is still serving in the military, is a C-17 pilot in the Air Force. And that little tidbit is going to be important later in our conversation. She has 2 children, and as she describes, a delightful rescue dog, which I think is just adorable. And when she's not working at her laptop or sitting on the sidelines of her children's sporting events, you can find her running the scenic trails of the DC area. And being a former resident of that area, the trails there really are spectacular. So I totally understand why we would find you there.
And at this time of year, you have to be a special person to get your booty off, the warm couch and get out there. But I love it. It's like where I gain my energy from.
You're absolutely right. Because the winters or even like late fall in the Northern Virginia, DC area is not pleasant. Just really is not fun. So as I do with all of my guests, and this is one of the really fun parts of the podcast for me anyway, is sharing with my guests, if they know or don't know, their sun, moon, and rising sign. So for those of you who listen to me regularly and you watch my Instagram lives or any of my other videos out there, we love to talk about, and when I say we, I mean myself and the people that tune in, love to talk about our sun, moon, and rising sign, because there's such a beautiful snapshot of us. I mean, there's so much more to us, but if we had to sum ourselves up with 3 energies, it would be the sun, moon, and rising. So your sun is it's your outward appearance. It's how you are here to present in the world. Okay. And Jen is an Aquarius sun. So Aquarius is an air sign. So it's masculine. But the interesting thing about Aquarius is that although it's an air sign, it has a duality to it. It's one of the signs that I find is the most complex, because there's the Aquarians have a very different way of thinking. It's not the rote, this is how it's done. It's yes, facts and figures are important, but they're looking outside the box. Like, is this fact or figure accurate? Are we looking at it the proper way? Is there another way that we can decipher this information, that we can understand what's going on based on this information? So kind of the words, I usually come up with a few words to sum up the sign based on energetics of the person, because there's so much to each sign. It would take me, an hour to describe just this. But what comes up for me, for you, Jen, is restless yet persistent. And I don't mean restless in the sense of like, you can't sit still, although I kind of have the sense that you are definitely a doer. It's like you see that there's things that need to be done. And it's hard for you to sit still because you want to get to it, and you're persistent. Once you hone in on something, you're persistent in like, okay, we're going to get this done. We're going to find a way to do it. Would you say that's true?
I would think that's 100% accurate. Yes.
Okay. So now the other aspect of Aquarius, and I'm going to spend a little extra time here because I think it's so important to show the complexity of the sign in particular, is Aquarius is original. So they're very unique, like I was describing before, with a sense of their sense of creativity, the way they look at things. But there's a gift of concentration, which I think you need to have in order to open up new channels and to do new things and to create something that hasn't been done before. So when I say the gift of concentration, is it kind of comes back to the persistence. It works together. It's like you find that way and you will concentrate and you will find what you need to get that job done, to solve that problem. Are we still in tune? We still?
Yes, I think it's kind of funny because I feel like a squirrel most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I think what I am very concentrated on, what I can hone on really well, is people. So though I may not be the perfect person to execute the task, I will always find the people that are, and that's an easy collection for me. Like people
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. And so when I say concentration, I don't necessarily mean that you're sitting down and you're like focused and you're just like, it's more of in that moment when you need to be focused. It could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be like 5 hours. You are in that 100%, like you are in the zone. Okay. So Leo moon. So Leo is a very big and bold sign, and the moon is related to your inner world. It's related to family. It's related to your relationship with your mother. And so again, this is another masculine sign. It's fire. So when you think of Leos, the lion, it's big, it's bold, it's grand, it's in your face. So it's a sign where you don't necessarily shy away from attention. You may not necessarily be seeking it, but when it's there, you step into the spotlight and you do what you need to do. You are also up for a challenge. So if there's something that comes up, you're not going to be like, oh, I don't know, I'm not really sure. That seems like a lot. If it's something that connects to you, because it's your moon, you're going to be in there. You're going to be doing it. Are we still good?
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
I love a problem or, doing something that nobody else would try. Yes.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. So, and I mean, as we have this conversation, people are going to see that really shining through. Okay. The last bit here is the rising sign, the ascendant. And this is the way I look at the rising sign is when you come into this life, okay, whether you believe in past lives or you don't, we're just going to say when you come into this life, there are certain aspects of you that you bring into the world. And some of these are developed and some of these are not quite developed. So some of them you're here and you're just like, this is me. And others you are rising into, you're ascending into this place, and you kind of ascended into where you are now as far as your life when you come into this world. So you are, again, another masculine sign, fire sign, Aries. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And when people think of Aries, they are go-getters. They are action takers. They are not sit around on the couch and eating potato chips people. They are like doing stuff. They're out there. They're making a difference. Very brave people. So life may throw things at Aries because life knows that Aries can handle it. They're going to find a way through it. And we were actually having a conversation right before recording that I think ties into that, surprises that happen in our life that can really throw you off balance, but you find a way to learn from it, to grow from it, and potentially take action for others because of it. It's very, very independent. So Aries are not followers. You're not going to necessarily be going the same route that everyone else is going. I would say, and this isn't necessarily a negative, but it's a piece of Aries that I think helps them in some ways and can be a hindrance in others. And that is very strong opinions, very strong beliefs. So just, when it comes to Aries, just from the people that I know, how can you take your opinions and beliefs and then marry that with the Aquarius in you, Jen, that looking at things from different angles and looking at things from different perspectives, there might be a way to bring those two together and expand even more in that Leo way, showing others, being in the spotlight and saying, wow, like I thought this, but then I learned that, and now I see this in a completely different way. So there's a nuance to it, but it just, that word, for whatever reason, not that I think you're opinionated, I've never seen this sort of like aggressive thing like that towards me or at all, but it just felt like there was some sort of marriage between the two, where maybe that Aquarius part of you could bring these two together to create something beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. This gives me a lot to think about.
Great. Well, and I find that when I share with each individual, the listeners, there's some nugget for whomever comes across this podcast where they go, holy cow, I can totally resonate with that. Like I feel that so much. And that just helped me look at something in a different way. So I thank you for allowing me to share that with you.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And honestly, I've never done this before. So I'm kind of excited to keep researching.
Awesome. Awesome. So, all right. The last little bit before we like really dive in is what you're known for saying. And so it's so funny whenever I ask my guests this question, I get a number of different things. It's like, well, this and this and this and this and this. And then finally, usually at the end, they nail it. And it's so funny because your quote, and you actually described it as your motto, was in caps. So it was just like, this is it. You wrote some other things before, but that this is the core of what you're known for. And that is live, give, serve, and grow. Mm-hmm. 4 very simple words with so much power behind them. So I absolutely love that. Live, give, serve, and grow. So Jen, so cool. Tell us a little bit about that and then we'll get started.
Yeah. So when I first started this company that I started a couple of years ago called Mission Entrepreneur, I really wanted to encapsulate my way of thinking in a motto that I could share quickly. And I laid in bed for days trying to come up with what are kind of the things that I stand for in life. And, my background's in the military. My family is very important to me. I'm a constant learner, and I'm very adamant that anything that I do should be shared with the world. So those 4 words kind of came to mind. They rung in a, sort of a sing-song way, but I think, I want to live my life to the fullest with my family. I always want to give back in everything I do. Service is huge for me because I grew up in the military, and I only think you can be your best when you're serving others. And then I'm a huge believer in constantly being a student of something, because we always have more to learn. You never get there. I love to read. I love to learn. I love to listen to podcasts. So I think that pretty much sums it up for me. And it's, now for the last 4 years, I've been using that motto, and it hasn't worked yet. So I think it works pretty well to kind of put my stamp on the way I live life.
Yeah, I love it. And it's simple, it's very concise, but there's a lot of richness to those words together. So very, very cool. Hopefully it will inspire others that listen. So the question I ask everyone at the start of every show is, tell us about a recent experience that lit you up when you just knew it was your soul talking to you.
Yeah. So this probably wasn't recent, but it's probably the most profound soul moment. This was about 11 years ago now. And as we mentioned, my background is in the military. I went to the Air Force Academy. My husband's currently still serving. I retired last year. But at this point in time, I had just transitioned out of my active duty time. So I went from hard charging aircraft maintenance officer, woman in a man's world, out on a flight line with 250 dudes fixing airplanes, trying to be their boss and do all the things they needed around the clock. And then I had transitioned to coming home and staying home with 2 kids. So quit working full time, staying at home with 2 munchkins and a husband who was never home. And I had this, because he was always either deployed or flying somewhere. And I had this moment where I just realized I was trying so desperately to be what I thought the world wanted in a military spouse. A stay-at-home mom who thought that raising children was, you know, magical, and who loved every day of her life. And yet I had this moment on the floor where, and I vividly can picture it still to this day, where I looked across the room, all 3 of us were sick. I had a 3-year-old, a 1-year-old, they were both in diapers. And I just realized that this was not it for me. This was like not what I was here for. There was so much more I had to give, and I was not thriving in that position. I look back on it now, and I probably had some, you know, some type of, you know, postpartum depression. But at that time, it wasn't clear to me. I just knew that I needed to make a move to fix it for myself. And so that was clearly the moment that I made the decision, sitting on the floor, that I was going to get a job or start something to get myself out of this headspace. And then from there, it turned into multiple businesses along the way, lots of rising. And I credit that moment with the clarity I needed, where it was my soul talking, saying, this is not your purpose right now. You love your kids. And of course I love them. And it's for them that I've done all this, to be a better mom. But that was not the path that I needed for them or for me. And so I was able to make a conscious switch. And still to this day, I use that moment as my reset button. It's my purpose moment when I realized what my purpose was, to not only start a business for myself, but also to create a path for other girls on the floor, as I call them, who are looking desperately and searching for their purpose. And so that has been sort of the motivation for everything I've done since then with businesses, to create opportunity for those same girls, and to give them hope that there's a better way, and that they can actually, you know, kind of take their lives back.
Wow. So basically the story you just shared ties into literally everything that we're going to be talking about today so concisely. And one piece of that I would love to highlight for everyone is that I think most of us, and most men and women, but I'll speak just to women specifically, because there's such a societal pressure for us to be the quote unquote perfect mom. And there are multiple definitions of that term based on who you talk to. You know, some women, the perfect, and I'm talking just women's definition. Some women, the perfect mom is a stay-at-home mom who does all of the household things, does not work outside the home, and she is just in the mom world 150%. Other women say the perfect mom is a mix of both. Some women say it's somebody who finds a way to do it all and works full time. And I have girlfriends who have fit every single role. I was the stay-at-home mom who did all the household stuff, the room mom for literally, and I kid you not, about 18 to 20 years.
Wow.
It was a lot. And I lost myself completely in the process. I had no sense of who I was until I had a moment similar to your girl on the floor moment, where I had a surgical procedure and I could not speak. I could not speak for about 3 months. And I was eating through a tube in my mouth. It was literal hell on earth. And I had nowhere to go but my head. I was trapped in myself, and I really started to do some soul searching. And I think kind of the main point I'm illustrating here is that we each reach that moment. It's that pivotal moment where we go, I can't do it anymore. Like I've reached either the floor, like I've hit rock bottom, or I'm drowning wherever I stand. And the key to that is I'm determined that there's another way to get us up off the floor other than being down there and feeling so awful. You know, why do we find ourselves in that position and then take action? Because there's all these signs that come before. You know, it's not like in that moment it all just hit you and that like there were no hints. It was these subtle little whispers. And then what happens is we get hit with the 2x4. We skip the flashing red lights around us. We look up as the piano comes falling down out of the window above us onto our head. And then we're like, oh, maybe I need to do something different here. And for anyone listening, if you've got whispers, if there are those little whispers that are telling you, do something different, make a change. Are you really happy? Is there a small tweak you can make in your life? Listen, experiment, play, just see what happens. Because that's where those golden moments are that define us and that really send us down the path that we're meant to be on. Would you say that resonates with you as far as the energy and the feeling of that time for you?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think everybody has, sort of a heart center or a purpose that, it's usually, sort of disguised by all of like either the societal's requirements, the people that you hang around, you're being sort of judged or compared to. In fact, even just this weekend, I was telling my husband, we were at a bunch of Christmas parties, and it's just so natural for the men to go on one side and the women to go on another. And on my side, everybody was talking about baking. And I just was kind of flashback to when I was an Air Force officer, and same thing. I was always kind of like on the outside of the circle of women because I felt like my talents aligned more with the guys. So it's kind of funny that you say I have all these masculine traits because that's where I felt like I belonged a lot more. However, I appreciate so many things about women. It's just that I have to be okay with the fact that I don't share some of their passions. And sometimes that's even hard to decipher within that group because I don't know that those ladies all truly share that passion, or if society's put that on them. So that's what you should talk about at a Christmas party. So some of me just sometimes wants to stand up and be like, does anybody not want to talk about baking and go over here and talk? So I think there's some of that. And I think that's what we need to do for the next generation is just teach girls that you're okay to be you no matter what that looks like. I was always a tomboy growing up, playing sports, like wanting to be, smart in school. Like there was a lot of things that weren't necessarily what the other girls were doing that I chose to do. And that's okay. And thankfully I came into my own confidence, but I think it has a lot to do with just standing in who you are and being confident and knowing your heart center and recognizing it and being okay with it. Not it having to be similar to somebody else's or be, what society says.
I think that's such a beautifully said expression of what we all do carry inside of us, but there's so much stuff that covers it up. And we do believe what people tell us about ourselves. We do believe what society says we should. And I really do not use that word often because it's anytime there's should before a statement, there's an energy of obligation and requirement instead of choice. And, we have a choice whether to step into our power and to align with our heart or not. And how many of us choose not to on a day-to-day basis because it's easier than going against what everyone else expects of us. I think that for women in particular is such a challenge to do.
Well, and also because when you do align, you become very powerful, and that can be scary. That can be scary to say, I know I don't belong in this circle of conversation. I know where I belong. It might be with these powerful men over here. I can still have my relationships with women as well, but I fully recognize where I belong. And for some women, if that's not right in the circle, that's very scary.
Yeah. God, that's such a great point. And I think too, what's really striking me right in this moment is that you do carry so much of this masculinity in your nature. I mean, it is part of you, but this phase of your life is so geared towards women. It's so women focused, supporting women on so many levels. And I think that speaks so much to your evolution as a person and a woman, to recognize these qualities and to see, as you're standing in the room, I resonate with these women on this level and I resonate with men on this level. And you are naturally finding that balanced place for yourself. So well done, Jen. That's really, really cool.
Well, I think I'm an interesting blend because I was raised in the military from, the time I was 18 until last year at 43 or when I retired. So that part of my life, I was raised in a very male dominated upbringing, right? Very hierarchical, very like much you have to prove yourself to get your position. And then 11 years ago, I came into this world of working with women in business, and it completely blew my mind. I thought, the only thing I thought about women at that time was, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of emotion. It's going to be very catty. I don't know if I'm going to belong, because I told you I was always outside the circle of women with spouses. But when I came into this world, I was completely blown by the care and support that was there. And I thought, oh my gosh, when you can take what I learned, like the how to be driven, how to organize people, how to get things done from the masculine world, and put it together with the care and support of the feminine side, it is unstoppable. It's amazing. So I think that I'm kind of like a really interesting mix where I have the empathy of a woman, but also the drive of, sort of that, like, let's just get it done, sort of a masculine way of leading, I guess. And it works really well together. At least it has so far. So,
absolutely. So let's get talking about this, about Mission Entrepreneur, and tell us what it is, and obviously, we have a little bit of a sense of what inspired you, but maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So I've had multiple businesses over the years, but 11 years ago, I started with Rodan and Fields, which is a skincare company, which exposed me to lots of women. I have a team of about 9,000 women, but that's all in one very clear business model in direct selling. And I recognized early on that not all women were going to enjoy that type of business. So once I had gained enough success with that, I was asked to write a book called Mission Entrepreneur. And I put out basically a handbook for military spouses on what businesses I thought were the smartest to start. One being direct sales, but there was, 4 others. And I wrote it all kind of in a handbook in this book. And once that took off, I realized this is going to attract a lot of other women that aren't wanting to start businesses in direct sales, and I'm going to need to help them now. So at the time when we launched the book in 2017, we also started the business, which now provides women with affordable websites, with branding, and with marketing for how to get your small business started. Because that was all the stuff I wished for when I started my very first business. I didn't have a woman willing to reach her hand down and show me exactly what to spend my $1,000 I had to invest in it. It was kind of like a crapshoot looking on the, World Wide Web for what you should do. And instead, I wish I would have had a mentor. So that's what I was hoping that this would be. And now over the last, several years, we've really just realized what women need. And in doing so, just this last year, we launched our probably most exciting product called Boss Lady Bio, which is basically a mini website. Because we were, building these big websites for women and realizing that they were almost a little too overwhelming for their busy schedules. And they were just too busy to take in all the tech, which I'm not a techie person. So I understood that deeply. So we created this mini website, which is very easy to build from your mobile phone within, an hour if you sit down and force yourself to do it. And then you can have this much more affordable option instead of paying for the thousands of dollars website.
Well, and the cool thing too is with this little mini website, you can connect it to social media. So, which is what intrigued me about it, is that you can, instead of for those women who are listening who are business owners, and you have whether it's a knowledge-based business or a product-based business, you have link in bio, or you have Linktree, and I think there's a couple of other ones out there, but the link in bio and Linktree are the two most popular ones. And it's very linear. There's not much to it. You click and it takes you to these, whatever, 1 link or 5 links or however many links you have. And what I love about Boss Lady Bio is it gives you an opportunity to do a little video, to share a little bit about yourself, to really get more of a sense of who the person is or the business is in a really small amount of time. Because the other thing is, people are not going to sit and watch a 10-minute video of you yapping about how wonderful you and or your business are. They want it quick. And so I love the fact that people can see that right up front.
Yeah, so we describe it as your friendly introduction. When somebody clicks on the link in your bio, they go to your Boss Lady bio account, they can quickly see a really nice friendly picture of you. If you put the 10-second video, they get a quick snippet, and then they can quickly read 3 lines of an intro that you write, and then they get to the meat of what you're offering. And what we find and what we're seeing in the analytics on the backside is people love the experience of getting to know, like, and trust you just through those few little places. And then they're far more likely to buy what you put in your selling position, which is where the first picture, once they scroll once, they're going to see that first picture, which we call your eye-catching offer, to whatever it is, your freebie, your class, your membership, your podcast, whatever it is there. And you can watch, and we have a strategy where we show you kind of how to pull people into from your social media stories, just talking about your everyday, things, the coffee that you drink, the running shoe that you're wearing. They come to your bio, and then they're far more likely to stay and click around. So it's using your organic brand, which I love because nobody wants to be sold to these days. It's using your organic personal brand to pull people into your bio and then letting them self-shop without being pushed to do anything. And that's how people want to do things these days. And we're learning that friendly little intro is the key to keeping them there.
That's a great point. When you think about the way social media works too, is that somebody may not know you, and they may have just found you through a hashtag perhaps, right? And they read something and they're like, oh, she's funny, and click on to see, like, who are you? And then they may want to learn a little bit more. And then the link in bio takes them to this very small yet robust picture of you, where they can get a sense of whether or not you jive. And I think that's really, really valuable for this day and age where people do just like jump around and hop around, and there's not much with staying power with people, or being able to capture and pull them in, because there's a bazillion choices out there to choose from.
Yeah, and you're a great example. So when you have any type of coach, the word coach can be a broad range of different types of people, right? And so people put everybody in the coaching bucket, but you're very different, right? There's far fewer people that would open their podcast with your zodiac signs, which is going to be super appealing to a certain sector of people. And they're going to know immediately that's the one for me, right?
Right.
Instead of just continually marketing the sameness, you want to market your uniqueness, which is the right people will find you if you're just posting about those unique factors all the time.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder. And the other thing I want to point out to people too is that I know that there are people that are listening to this that are thinking, oh my God, but this just seems like so much, because I can completely relate to that, because it does feel like it's a lot to do. It's a lot to think about. How am I going to get this done? But the one thing that Jen, you and your team have done such a great job of is you have video classes that people can join, so they can get kind of a walk, literally holding their hand through. You talked about that earlier. Yeah. And there's also these guides, or I would call it even like a little cheat sheet for you to break it down so that you don't have to try to create something out of the air. Like you have thought of everything to make it as easy and simple and streamlined as possible for people.
Yeah, the way that we want to differentiate from the link trees and the link in bios is nobody there is there to help you. That's just a link that you have to go get. We want to be the women that come alongside you and teach you exactly what you need to do next to get it done. Because that's most of our problem, right? We can do it. It's just you need someone with a little prodding and to say, you got this, girl. So we want to be able to do that. So we do host webinars once a month. We have a helpful worksheet you can print off. And starting in January, we're even going to have a program called the Bio Builder Program, where you can hire somebody to do it for you if you don't have time. So keep an eye out for that as well.
That's fantastic. I didn't know about that. That would be, I'm sure, super useful to some women who are in the mindset of, I'd rather just pay someone to do this. I really just don't have the time or bandwidth, or they don't feel creative enough, or whatever it is, to just get something out there. So that's fantastic. You have that offering for those who just don't feel like they want to or can.
And we have 3 different levels of that. So we'll have one really affordable level where you can just have your bio reviewed and get some tips to make it better.
Okay.
We'll have another one where you partner with a bio builder and you meet for a half an hour and come up with your goals, and then together you build it. And then we have one for the super busy person where you just don't have time and you're just download everything to the builder and they'll just go do it for you.
Wow. Oh, that is so cool. I love that. So where, I just want to mention it now because people are listening and they're like, where the heck do I find this? I want to go there right now. Where would they go to find more information?
So you go to www.bossladybio.com. And I do know I have to make a mention, not everybody likes the term boss lady, and we know that. And we actually very consciously chose that term because the particular group of women that we were marketing to do like that term. But we give you a secondary URL option if you don't like that term. So you can choose onamission.bio for the guys and for the ladies that don't like the term boss lady. So we are definitely seeking to, help everybody find their right place with us, but everything is housed at bossladybio.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And I will say that I did choose the On a Mission because it felt just more inclusive to my audience, even though I gear a lot of things towards women. So I love that you were thinking about both sides of that. Makes total sense knowing who you are. So I want to kind of stay in this world a little bit, but slightly shift gears to a campaign that you ran in November. So this podcast will be airing in January of 2022. There may or may not be items left, but I did want to at least bring up this campaign that you ran in November because it was so touching and it ties in so beautifully to the supporting of women and bringing life to a dream, bringing the essence of who they are to life, but it ties in directly to bringing an actual life into the world. So would you tell us the story of the Within Reach campaign?
Sure. And I have to give a lot of credit to my Mission Entrepreneur team. We have 7 women that run the company, and this was dreamt up as a campaign amongst all of them. So we are made of, there are 3 of us that are military spouses, 2 former veterans ourselves within that team. So Veterans Day in November is a big week for us because we like to really commemorate people's service. We choose that as our highlight week instead of Black Friday week. And it cracks me up that you said that I'm choosing to be different because that is true. I'm always trying to, not be what everybody else is. So Veterans Day is our big week of the year. And so this year, we wanted to make sure that we always wanted to do something to give back to our military community. This year, we chose to make this merchandise. We did t-shirts, we have a sticker, and we have a coffee cup that say Within Reach to tell the story of the C-17s that were bringing Afghani refugees out of Afghanistan during the summer. One of our good friends ran that entire effort, which was monumental. If you don't know anything about the C-17 community, it was the biggest effort they've ever done to evacuate that many people out of Afghanistan.
Wow.
As an aircraft maintenance officer, what those planes did is remarkable. But on this particular mission, there was a baby born on board of a C-17. Excuse me. And the pilots had to take the aircraft down to a lower elevation or altitude so that the mom could survive because she was in distress.
Wow.
The baby was born while in flight. And the parents, when they landed, named the baby Reach, which was the call sign of the mission. Excuse me.
That's okay. No problem.
Anyway, this baby got a lot of press, and I just think it's the coolest story because it shows that any woman from anywhere that comes to the United States should have her dreams and know that they are within reach, which I think this story just commemorates exactly that. So we sold the t-shirts and gave all the proceeds to an organization here in the DC region that helps refugee families.
That story to me, I think is I don't know, it just touches me in such a beautiful way because it's a story of anyone who comes here has this opportunity to live their dreams, but wouldn't it be amazing if anyone, anywhere, any woman, because if you think about where a lot of women are who are very much held down and kept from living their dreams, even like having them to begin with, how beautiful it would be if that was something that was within reach for everyone. But we have to start somewhere. And so I think it's so just amazing and generous and just so creative to come up with this campaign. And I just love that she named her baby Reach, and that all of these people were working towards bringing this baby safely into the world. There are just so many aspects of this that are so cool.
Oh yeah, and I think in a time where it was really frustrating that things were getting so politicized, to me, it was like a story of humanity that the C-17 community was very proud of. They were not worried about what voters thought or what people back home, politically were thinking. They were worried about the humanity piece. And I think this baby was the perfect, representation of that. So I'm very proud of what they did.
And I think that's such a great point too, about the humanity piece. And I don't have any military background. I don't know much. I have some family members that have been in the military, so I have like a very hint of it, but it just strikes me just in a general knowledge framework that here, when we're here in the States, the average citizen is caught up in the energy and caught up in the rhetoric of what's around them. The men and women that are boots on the ground, that are out there serving and doing and active, they are seeing what's actually happening, and they're emotionally connected to it. So they can be in this place of, guys, what are we doing here? I mean, these people are literally dying. They have no place to live. You're in your cushy house, or even if you're not, you at least have a place to be, and they have nothing. And I think that's where oftentimes there's a disconnect between what people see when they're actually actively there and what trickles out to the rest of us. And remembering that connection to humanity. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and we did a bunch of interviews during the Veterans Day week with key players, and I interviewed the friend of ours that ran that whole evacuation, and he describes the way that they were doing everything they possibly could, even though they knew it wasn't potentially the safest. Honestly, like they measured safety over saving more lives, and they said, we will save more lives. And they would put more people than were ever normally allowed on a C-17 because they knew that was their chance to save people. And I think it's just such a testament to how they did their job. I mean, that's what the military is trained to do, is to tune out all the politics and to do the mission, which was to save lives. So I just commend people. It's getting harder and harder in the political environment that keeps getting louder and louder to stay in that zone. But those guys did a great, guys and girls did a great job this summer.
Yeah. And I love that your friend and the pilot, and maybe other pilots, plural, did go out on a limb in a way and decide, hey, I'm pretty sure this plane can handle this. We're just going to give it a shot. I mean, they literally put their lives on the line too, because if something was awry, they were on that plane as well. And so I think that takes a shit ton of courage and a lot of heart to be able to do that. And I can't imagine how difficult that must have been for them, when they take off and there's still people waiting and that they can't take with them. I mean, I can't even imagine how heartbreaking and gut-wrenching that must have been for them too.
Yeah. The whole thing, that Afghanistan is it's been something that's been present for my entire military career, from the moment we started and now to see it ending. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things we can't fix in the Middle East, but I think we just have to, really respect the people that continually do their jobs so that we can have all the freedoms we have here to say whatever we want.
Yeah. Oh gosh, girl. So true. Speaking about saying whatever we want, you were a contributor to a book, which is set to be released in January. And the name of the book, as I teased everyone a little earlier, is called Sacred Spaces. And the way Jen described it to me is it's a book that talks about subtle shifts for the mind, body, and home. It's a transformational type book. There were a number of people that were contributors to the book, and Jen's story that she shared at the beginning of the show about her girl on the floor was her chapter in this book and sharing that. And if you don't mind kind of just taking us energetically, I'm going to set the scene for everyone, and then you just kind of flow us from there. So you're a mom with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and you are all sick. You're on the floor, and any mom who knows what it's like to be sick and on your own without help knows how much it sucks. And you're in it, and you're in that moment of being sick and having these 2 girls, and your husband's gone, thinking this, there's got to be more. And so that was your girl on the floor moment. So take us through the next parts of that story and what you ultimately shared in this chapter of the book.
Yeah, I think the part that I share in the book that I didn't share earlier is the shift. I went from the hard charging officer that I was, and I described to you earlier, I was managing 250, mostly men, out on a big flight line to get airplanes off to war. That was my job. And then I made this transition knowing that once we started having kids, one of us had to stay home and parent them. And the chances of us both getting deployed were really high. So I said, I'll do the stay-at-home parent, thinking that I would transition into motherhood and it would be, unicorns and rainbows every day. And when it wasn't, when breastfeeding was really hard, and raising 2 kids most of the time as a single mom was really hard, I just couldn't believe like how uncomfortable I was, and therefore not a happy mom. And, like I said, I think it was a little bit of depression at that time. I don't know that I had the tools to put the words to it then. All I knew is I had to make a change. And I think so many women come to that position. Yeah. And like you mentioned, we hit the floor of rock bottom floor at some point. For me, that was it. And I'm so grateful that I had the idea to start my own business. My parents were entrepreneurs, and that became the default position, because as a military family, we move every couple years. To go get a job at an airline or to go get a job in logistics, which is what I was trained in, was not a part-time job, mom job. Mm-mm. It was a full-time job. I would have had to have a nanny, and I didn't want to go that far. I just knew I needed to work again to feel whole again, to contribute to society and to be able to give back. And so thank goodness, entrepreneurship was the outlet for me. But I think for a lot of women, if they don't see the job or the option right away, they can spiral further into that bad place. So from that point forward, I realized that was my purpose, was to, figure it out and then pioneer a way for more women to follow me, so that I could give them that hand up that I was looking for at that moment. And in the book, I give a tool, which I have now learned, because I've worked with thousands of women over these last 11 years, that one of the things that women have such a hard time doing is describing what they do in a business. I don't know why it is, but we somehow have a hard time stepping into our own power to say, here's what I do, here's how I can help you, here's what I offer. We sort of hem and haw, not knowing what exactly to say. So at Mission Entrepreneur, we came up with what we call a purpose statement, or we also call it the snappy brand statement, where we give you almost like a Mad Lib that you can fill in the blanks on to find an easy way for you to share. When somebody says, oh, Amalia, what do? You can just spit it out very confidently and stand in your purpose with it. So that's the tool that I share in the book. I think it's one of the most helpful tools I think I can share, because there's so many things that women need, but that one in particular comes back to me all the time. I don't know how to say. I freeze when people ask me what I do. So I'm hopeful that when it comes out in the book, people will be able to use it really, really well.
I'm just sitting here thinking, like, why have you not shared this with me before? I need this, like, right now. That is definitely a place. I mean, for myself personally, and you are absolutely right. Women in particular, we really have a hard time with speaking what it is that we do. What are our gifts? What are our talents? How do we contribute to the world? We can say we're a mom, and that's easy. But when it comes to being something other than a mother, what do we do? And, there are plenty of women out there who aren't moms, and they have an easier time, I've noticed, of owning who they are outside of the motherhood box, because they don't fit in the motherhood box. So I don't know, it just occurred to me now, like that may be that piece. Like if you are a mom, you tend to wear that hat because that's what you feel like you have to do.
It's your
You know?
default identity. It's easy
Yeah,
to describe that one because it comes so easily to you, where sometimes the other doesn't. With guys, it's completely opposite. Their identity
absolutely.
is 100% their work. So this is an easy thing that rolls off their tongue. So
Yes.
we have to practice a little harder, and that's okay. But that's why the tool is so handy, because you can literally practice saying it in front of the mirror, which gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah. Well, just to be able to hone in on it, some women, it may be easy. I'm an accountant. I am a therapist, whatever it is. But for those, and there are so many more women now, similarly to you, who are crafting their own career identity. They're making up new careers and new ways of being and working. And myself, I'm a prime example of that. So there isn't a single term that actually describes what I do. You mentioned before, coach. Yeah, that's kind of the grand umbrella. But then when you really kind of hone in on my skill set and what I do, it's so much bigger and broader and robust than that. And it's hard to make that into just a few words or something that people actually understand. So yeah, when we wrap this up, I definitely want to be talking to you a little bit more about that, the snappy brand statement. So do you have any sense now, by the time this airs, the book I'm assuming be officially out. Where can people find that so they can read this chapter about the snappy brand statement?
So yeah, you're going to be able to go to my bio, so bossladybio.com
Okay.
/Jen Griswold, and you can find the book there. It should be out January 4th of 2020.
Okay.
So it should be available. And yeah, I would love to hear, what people think. But you'll also be able to get all the resources, the snappy brand statement, all that kind of stuff will also be on my bio at that time too.
Nice. Oh, that's so fantastic. I love all of the really creative and very thought the thoughts and the practices that you've organized for women to really streamline the process of starting a business and supporting their business is really invaluable. I mean, I'm just so grateful that we have Jen and I have a mutual friend that connected us, and it's been really, really fun getting to know her. Jen, I'm referring to you,
Yeah.
getting to know you and having this opportunity to share different things. And we just today found out we have a surprising connection point in our lives that we didn't know until, well, she didn't know until recently. So it's just been super fun. And I've really enjoyed having you on the show today.
Well, and I think to your point, we know women are, I call them multifaceted, busy people, right?
Yes.
It's not that you don't have the skill. Here's my rescue dog right here.
So
It's
cute.
not that you don't have the skill. It's that you don't have the time to decipher through all the stuff, because you're also sometimes a mom or you have other things going on in your life. So that's what we like to do, is sift through the stuff for you to give you the clear path of just what you need, the simple solutions to get to where you want to go. So I hope that that's what we do through Boss Lady Bio, through Mission Entrepreneur Services, and through this book.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely. I truly believe that. And I hope that anyone who comes across you and your work can use that as a launching off pad for themselves, for their work and the light that they're here to bring to the world, because it really, everyone has some gift, everyone has something to contribute. And the more we're aligned with our soul, the more we're doing the work we're here that we're meant to do, the happier we are, the happier the people around us are, the higher the vibes of everyone we come in contact with. And I mean, imagine the shift energetically that can take place if more of us are in that place. And I think women tend to be the way showers of that shift and aligning with that. So if we can do it, anybody can do it, and I think too, showing our girls, our daughters, this is an option for you, and showing our sons, be supportive of the women in your life, be supportive of those females that you come in contact with, support each other, lift each other up, and speak up when you see an injustice that is occurring when it comes to women in the workplace or women out in society. I think it's really, really important. I have 3 boys. Hopefully I've instilled this in them. and one daughter, and I know I have instilled this stand in your power in her for sure. Even early on with princesses and fairy tales, I'm like, this is a story. You do not need a knight on a horse to come and save you. You can do this. And I remember my girlfriends telling me I'm ruining it for her. And I said, no, I'm actually, in my mind, helping her see there is no man or woman or anyone that's going to come and make your life perfect. You have to do it. You have to, and perfect isn't even the right word. It's like that richness of life. Yeah, that fulfillment. Thank you. Being fulfilled. Like that's all up to you. And letting girls at all ages know this as they step into womanhood, I think is so huge. So huge.
Yes. And I think I tell my kids all the time too, like when you know that you're aligned with what you're meant to do, you don't have regrets. I think that's one of the things I really have enjoyed. You know, I'm going to turn 44 in a few weeks, and I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, if there's one thing you should know about me, I feel like I'm doing it. Like, I don't feel like I left anything on the table.
Yeah.
I know what I'm here to do and I'm doing it. And I'm really like fulfilled in that way. So I know a lot of people that come to their end of their lives and regret a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I feel grateful that I'm not doing that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think that's a perfect, speaking of perfect, place for us to close today's show. Jen, again, thank you so much. Such a pleasure chatting with you in this captivating conversation today. Remind everyone one more time how they can find you and, where they can get more information about all of the things that we shared today.
Yeah. So go check us out at missionentrepreneur.com or bossladybio.com, and both of them link to each other. So you can find everything there.
Awesome. Awesome. Including the Sacred Spaces book that will be out in January and likely after this airs. So it'll be available for anyone who is listening. Again, Jen Griswold, thank you so much for being on the SoulFull Sessions podcast with me today. Thank you, all of you listeners who are likely ready to get out there and start a business if you don't have one already, because Jen has inspired us all. So appreciate you listening. Thank you again. This is Amalia saying goodbye for now with SoulFull Sessions, captivating conversations. I'll be with you again next month. Bye for now.